Welcome back to Coast Vue. I really enjoyed that conversation with Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We are so lucky to have access to him. We worked together when I was over in New Orleans, and he's one of the best. He's literally written the book on the Saints. I love his Don Quixote reference, jousting with windmills, when he talked about how Michael Thomas has this chip on his shoulder. In a way, really, the Saints have a chip on their shoulder this year. All these players coming back from injury, and they have a real opportunity. The national media is not really paying much attention to them, but locally we have a sense of what they're doing, and they have a chance to be special this year, as Jeff and I talked about. The other thing that Jeff mentioned that I thought was really important, he said that the New Orleans Saints need to have a great season, that if they have a season like 2021, the entire city will be in sackcloth and ashes this fall. And essentially what he means is there's so many challenges the city's having today. And the Saints are this positive headline they can wake up to every morning when they're winning, and they can feel better about things in spite of the fact that they've got some issues in the city with crime and all that. Really, the Saints are important to the entire Gulf South. I just can't say enough about that. Certainly, that's one of the reasons why Jeff commits so much time to our show here, because he knows the outreach all the way over as far as the panhandle of Florida is important to the Saints. That's what makes the Saints successful. So with all that said, let's move over to my friend Jonathan Jones from Harrah's. We haven't talked in a while, and it's great to see my old friend Jonathan. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Ricky. It's good to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you heard what I said about the Saints and the challenges that the city's having these days, but you spent some time in New Orleans, a lot of time actually, and you have a point of view about how important the Saints are to the city and to the Gulf South. What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, a couple things. So, I mean, for sure, the Saints are a big deal in New Orleans, and I think looking back just a little bit, there's some real good momentum that the Pelicans had created towards the end of the season, and there's some optimism about the Pelicans. So, where the Saints used to sort of carry the water for sports in the city of New Orleans, now you kind of have two teams that the city's really looking forward to seeing kind of be successful throughout the course of the year. I'm a huge Saints fan, and talk a little bit about the industry that I'm in. The Saints are still, Vegas has them at 7.5 wins on the season. That's kind of the over under. And those of us that are close enough to know, the pieces that they've put together and the health, with some of the guys that had some injuries, I know personally I'm going to go down the street somewhere and load up on the over on that one, just because I feel like the Saints have an opportunity to do something real special this year. Also, though, for this region, for coastal Mississippi, that's our NFL team, where we're all over the place from a college standpoint. My brother was visiting earlier this week, and he's been living in Denver for a while. So he's asking questions about who people pull for. And I said, college, it just depends, right? Like, you see a lot of Ole Miss flags in front yards now because they just won the baseball national championship. But we're all over the place. Baseball, or, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Southern Miss, a big deal. But from an NFL standpoint, we are Who Dat Nation here on the coast, and really looking forward to seeing what the Saints can do. And yeah, I think the city needs it. They excited about getting back on the field and getting back in the dome and getting together and having something to pull the city together.
You got a lot of split families too. I just think about my family: Southern Miss, Auburn, and Ole Miss, all in our family. Yeah. That's not unusual in coastal Mississippi.
We're Ole Miss, LSU. My wife went to LSU, and I went to Ole Miss. So kids will wear whatever colors depending on who's playing and who's doing
well. No doubt about it. Hey, look, the last time you and I talked, we talked a lot about how the coast tourism market and the gaming industry in general had done incredibly well during the pandemic. I often talk about the gaming sector of coastal Mississippi having been a best practice really for the industry around the world, that what we did here, the way we came back, the way you guys configured your gaming floors, what you did to make people feel safe, really became a best practice for gaming companies around the world. And it continues on. I mean, you have hit the ground running the way you did. There's so many ebbs and flows with inflationary pressures and coming out of the pandemic and all of that. I think the fact that we got out there early and often during the pandemic, we really kind of chiseled out something for ourselves. But is that sort of the way it still is for you guys, Jonathan?
Yeah, no question. So I think, we recognized the opportunity that we had to be one of the first markets to reopen. We recognized the opportunity that we had to expose ourselves to get many guests for the first time who didn't have their other local, previous options. So there were many markets that were closed. For us in particular, we took advantage of the fact that New Jersey stayed closed a lot longer than we did. we had a big charter plane program where we had already purchased the hours on this big plane. And so we flew those planes down here to Biloxi, and many of those guests have become loyal to us and repeat visitors. They tell us all the time, we didn't know this was down here. We had no idea how great this market is. The stuff that we know about ourselves really played itself out in those first, few months. And so, we're still seeing that. I would say, the past 3 months now here on the coast, the gaming revenue numbers that have come out have been down to prior year. But we got to remember where we're coming from. I mean, last year was a record year by a wide margin. I think 10 of the 12 months in 2021 were the 10 best months ever in this market from a gaming revenue perspective. And so we keep all of that in perspective. We look at this year, and while we're down a tick from last year, we're still up significantly to 19 and to kind of the previous year's run rates. And so that's been great for us here on the coast.
So has it been managing expectations? I've been a CEO under very different kind of scenarios of subsidiary companies. And it always kind of is, what have you done for me lately? It's when you're a higher performer, they expect you to be a higher performer. Has it been managing expectations?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what type of company you work for. So I happen to work for a publicly traded company, and so we look at things on a quarterly basis, and you look at your performance relative to prior year, and so the expectations are high. But it's my job to meet those expectations, to exceed those expectations, and or to be able to pretty well articulate some of the reasons why we're coming a little bit short of those expectations. But again, this business, and I think our industry, is just so much healthier than it was based on some of those smart decisions that you referenced, coming out of the pandemic, and, continue to bring new people down here all the time, continue to take great care of them. And, there's a lot going on in the world, but this market has always been one that has been pretty resilient in terms of responding to macro trends, right? So gas prices are high and we're generally a drive-in market, but gas prices plus staffing and pilot shortages have created significant increases in the cost to fly somewhere. And so people choose to drive here as an alternative to that big expense. And, when we are flirting with a recession and people are a little bit concerned about, their finances, and they still want to take a vacation, they'll trade out something pretty extravagant or international for something reasonable or approachable, like coming down here to coastal Mississippi and enjoying some time with us. So we get some ins where they may not have been, our guests to begin with. And so, we benefit from that as well. I don't want to say it's all great. We are not immune to some of those pressures, but we can benefit from them where other markets can't as well.
I think you said that really well, and that is incredibly consistent, actually, with, I'm in a unique position because I get to talk to a lot of CEOs and attractions and a wide range of people, and that's the thing. That is absolutely the thing, that people were going to go on vacation. Now they may not go where they plan to go. They may change their vacation. I hate to say downsize, but essentially that's what they're doing. And since over 80% of the people who come here drive here, and because of where we're located, if you think about, you know this better than most. So you think about where we're located and how we can draw from major markets all around us. The fact that we're one of the most affordable beach communities in the United States now, and the fact that people there's something about the water that draws them. There's something about the people here that draws them. When you add it all up, we have really benefited. We've benefited because here's the thing. There are other markets that are competing with us under those same circumstances. They would be potential destinations for those for those consumers that have downsized their vacation aspirations for the summer, and we're winning with them because all these factors come together to create a real opportunity for us not to have a big down moment. I think we're going to have fluctuations. We're still going to have fluctuations, but the reality is, a lot of people come in here for the first time. Hopefully, a lot of people are going to come back because they had a great experience. And, there's a cumulative effect that happens, a little snowball effect that happens from all that I think will serve us in the future, don't you?
I do. I don't want to want to downplay it. It's not easy, Ricky. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got some challenges of our own, just when you think about staffing and you think about, supply chain issues and, if we can't get prime steak because it's not in the pipeline, it's not in the supply chain, our guests don't really care what our challenges are. Right. And if I've got to put someone out on the floor to serve a guest without, giving them the 2 weeks of training that they need, our guests don't care about that. So we've got to work real hard right now.
We've got Jonathan Jones from Harrah. When we come back on the other side, we'll talk about that. Actually, this whole notion of supply chain, labor shortages, literally there's not a single person that I talk to that is not challenged by that. And the fact that we're still getting it done, it is, it's not sustainable. Obviously, it's not sustainable, but it's really a testament to our ability to rise to the moment. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Jonathan Jones. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have Jonathan Jones. He's actually the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Harrah's Gulf Coast, and he's been a phenomenal leader here in coastal Mississippi. It's rare, actually, that we're able to glom on to someone who runs a casino and keep him for a long period of time. And then Jonathan is one of those guys who loves this community. He's been here long enough to understand the ins and outs. He's actually from the region, so it makes a big difference. He's a good person. The fact that he's still in that position with a company like Harrah's after so long is I think it's a feather in his cap that, they have confidence in him. So, Jonathan, it's a theme. Labor shortages, supply chain affects every single person. They've had to learn to deal with it. When you look at it in your industry, how do you, is anyone's mastering this, or is everyone? I don't mind, it doesn't matter what market they're in. Are they all singing the same tune that they're having difficulties?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't heard anyone who said, they've got all the employees that they need and no one's leaving and that they're not dealing with supply chain issues, whether it be on the food side or the material side, that costs aren't up. I mean, yeah, so we're all facing it. I think those that have been successful have figured out how to kind of work through some of those challenges. And so, we spend a lot of time talking about employee retention. We spend a lot of time digging into turnover. There is, there are people who have chosen to step out of the workforce. There are a lot of people who have chosen not to re-enter the workforce. But I think really when I think about this business, and certainly we have not mastered it and we have not been perfect, but I think where we have been successful, it's just been because of a lot of the folks that I work with and kind of a can-do attitude. So, we've got 500 hotel rooms here. We've never had a full staffing role of guest room attendants, housekeepers. We've also never had to close one room, much less one floor of our hotel rooms, because we didn't have the staff to clean them. And that sometimes means there's people who aren't GRAs cleaning hotel rooms and people from other departments when we're in a pinch, but we figure it out. Same thing with our restaurants. We haven't had to close down early or generally alter our hours of operation due to staffing challenges. This morning there was a long line out in front of our breakfast restaurant, Mix and Mingle, and we shared a couple of texts about that. I don't love seeing that, but guests have been generally patient with us, and we're serving them pretty well. So
that's good. Hey, listen, I had Adele Lyons on, and from the Coast Chamber, and Adele said that a company reached out to her that's doing research. And I think the way she referred to it, or the title of the research was, "Where have they gone?" They're trying to figure out, where did the employees go? I mean, it's a lot when some decided not to work, some retired, some decided to go into their own business. She said the number of one-person small businesses has risen dramatically, and which tells you some will succeed, some won't. So they'll have to come back to the labor force. But it will be interesting to see the result of that study. Like, where are all the people? I mean, it's truly. Do you have a sense of that?
No, I want to read that study when it's done. But yeah, look, I think that having a few months of time alone or time with people's families generally sort of deinstitutionalize some people, kind of just force them to realize that, you can be home with family, and that's kind of nice too. Let's also not lose sight of the fact that anyone who had any exposure to the equity markets through 21 generally did pretty well, right? And so I think people that a combination of, an exposure to, I can maybe do something different. I can try something different, or I can just stay home with family and live pretty modestly, combined with, my 401k was worth more than it was previously, caused a lot of folks to think hard about retirement. And, that's great. I'm in some ways envious of them. I'm a little too young for that and too early in my career. I think I got a little bit more to give. But, don't blame those folks. I think the question is, how do we replace those folks? And in our industry, we lose table games dealers faster than we find them. And, we lose guest room attendants faster than we find them. There isn't this generational pride in, following your parents' footsteps. I don't know of many teenage girls who would say, I want to clean hotel rooms like my mom did. I think some of that sort of stopped with, the previous generation. And so, there's a lot to it. No one's that I know of got the answer. And like I said earlier, I'd like to see that study and see, what we can do about it.
In my conversation with Julie Rankin over at the Walter Anderson Museum, or with Tish Williams in Bay St. Louis, or with Louis Scrimetta from Ship Island Excursions, I could just list them out. Every single one of those people I mentioned and more like them report that they've had a phenomenal summer. And, again, there's going to be challenges. And in this particular case, literally companies around the world are facing similar challenges as we're facing. I think as Coast of Mississippi continues to work together and really focus on making sure that people who visit here see the heart and soul of the people who live here through the employees, and it makes them want to come back. And I think we will have a good success going forward. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a bumpy road from time to time. Certainly that's going to be the case. But with leaders like you, Jonathan, engaged the way you are, I think we have a good opportunity to make it. So listen, thank you, my friend, for spending some time with me this morning.
No, it's a pleasure. It's great to be on. And I agree. I mean, I think, we've got a great opportunity here at Caesars Entertainment. We love that we can bring people in from all over the country and expose them to all the great things that we have here in coastal Mississippi and keep them coming back. It's a lot of fun.
No doubt about it. This has been Jonathan Jones from Harrah's